Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the book Refuge and welcome to my weekly wrap up for week 47 of 2021. Things are getting crazy around here. If you want to skip to the time where I start talking about the book, skip to this time because I have a couple announcements as well as a package to open that I'm excited about, and we're going to do that all in one video today, okay? Couple things. Next week, or which will be the coming week that you're watching this, if you are watching this on Sunday, Saturday, if you're one of my channel members, I will be on vacation. I will be reading Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone and probably little else because my beautiful sister just had her third child. I know I've said this in a couple of videos, but in case you didn't see those ones. So I will be working on Monday and then taking Tuesday through Saturday off and going to stay with her and help with her older children and just be there to assist however I can. So I will be reading when I have the time there. I mean, I'll probably be starting a lot of my rereads that I'll be doing. But I'm not planning to do much besides focus on Outlander and my family. So there will still be content going up, but my thinking is that next Saturday I won't end up having a lot of books to wrap up. So I'll probably wait and do like a week and a half wrap up, you know, to wrap up the month of November, because November ends on that Tuesday, and then, you know, we'll just see what happens, okay? If I end up reading enough that it's worth it to do a weekly wrap up, I will. The thing is, I will also be vlogging that week because I'm going to be vlogging while I read Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone. So if I'm reading anything else, I'll maybe mention it in there, but it's going to be focused on that. So that's what I'm planning for it to look like. Again, there still will be videos going up, but I may not be the quickest to respond to any comments or be super active on social media because it's vacation. And in the month of December, I'll be like busier than ever because we'll have lots of, you know, end of the year stuff going on. So I'm taking this week of Thanksgiving as my vacation. So there's that. Okay, next, I did my grocery shopping this morning, and I stopped by my P.O. box and I have a gift here. This is from an Amy in Michigan. So let's see what she sent me. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me read the note. I'm a Book Refuge subscriber. I wanted to reach out and say enjoy it. I was cleaning out my bookshelves and wanted to send you some books. All books that I enjoyed. Thank you for making videos. They have helped me narrow down my romance interests. I've read and loved so many of your recs. And that's from Amy. Well, cool. There are, oh my gosh, there are some cool ones in here. Let's start with the Beverly Jenkins, Destiny's Captive. I don't think I have this one. That's awesome. That's so cool. And then it looks like it's the entire, like, Kristen Callahan, I think it's like a steampunk series, or the like one series where have never actually read this. So there's Firelight. I do actually own a couple of these because I've found them at different times, but these are much prettier copies than I have, so I will take it. So there's Firelight. I think their order is different. Moonglow, Winter Blaze, Shadow Dance, Evernight, Soulbound. Ooh, that's cool. And Forevermore. Wow, I didn't actually know there was this many in the series. So that's cool. Well, thank you so much, Amy. I have wanted to read this. I have wanted to read these, so this is wonderful. Thank you so much. I will be checking those out. That's awesome. Okay, let's get into what I read this week. So I read 14 books this week. So a bit of a more average week for me. One of the books I'm not allowed to tell you about. That never happens where I'm not allowed to tell you about it, but I got a cool beta copy of a certain book that's coming soon. So I can't tell you what it was until everyone else gets it, but It was pretty great. But otherwise, let's go through what I did get through. So here we go. The first book that I read was Kingdom Come by Aleatha Romig. Okay, so this is part of the Underworld Kings, and I loved this one. Okay, I can proudly, happily say I loved this one. This is actually the second Aleatha Romig that I read. I read a random, like, it was like a suspense novel of hers with romance, but it wasn't a romance novel. I actually was on a live show, I believe on Stephanie's channel, from Steph's Romance Book Talk, way back in the day of my romance career. But anyway, I have been scared to read her book since then, even though I know she has some amazing ones. And this really piqued my interest. So this one is about this rich heiress who gets kidnapped, and it starts with her being kidnapped. Her guard gets murdered, and she's being held captive and really degraded while that happens. Nobody sexually assaults her, but they do a lot of other things to her. I mean, they do kind of sexually assault her because they make her be naked, and they tie her to a chair to film her and send her to her family. And instead of just ransoming her to her family, they end up putting her up for bid on the dark web on an auction. And then we have our hero who gets tapped. He is like a hacker and really brilliant man, and he gets tapped by a certain interested party to try to find her and rescue her. And while he's doing this, he starts coming across some hints that maybe this wasn't someone unknown to our heroine who kidnapped her. So this book goes through a couple different stages. Like, I don't want to spoil all the different tropes in this one because they're kind of spoilers, but I had a great time. This may be my favorite one I've read in the Underworld Kings. It's probably tied with the Bratva's Heir and Tears of Salvation, but I highly recommend, again, any of these Underworld Kings that sound good to you, you can read them as a standalone because they don't really connect at all. And if they do, it's in such a subtle way, it doesn't matter. And I've read most of them that are out at this point. There's a couple that I didn't get arcs for, but I still plan to read. I'm just a bit overwrought with the mafia lately. I have a lot of mafia arcs that I have read and need to read, so I'm trying to space them out as best that I can. But 5 out of 5 stars for this one. Then I got to read, oh, and that one's out already too, right? I read the arc and it came out already, so you can read it. Same with Filthy Secret by Serena Akeroyd. I got the arc for this book. My physical book is supposed to get here tomorrow. I wish that I had it in my hands. I'm sure it's a big one. But this is the return to Finn and Aoife. Not that we've really left them. That's kind of the thing with this series at this point. And I've had some discussions with my friends who also read her books that Serena has a lot of different POVs in her books, and that can off-put some people, because if you don't like all the POVs that are involved, you're kind of trapped with those people forever. You know, if there's characters you weren't a fan of, you're stuck with them. One of the things Serena did with this book is that there are many POVs, but this book becomes a family book, okay? So instead of, in some of the Filthy Feckers, you have POVs from the sinners, and I've not been a fan of that, and I've been pretty vocal about it. I say that it kind of is off-putting to me when I'm in the mood for a Filthy Fecker book and I have to deal with the sinners, when the sinners aren't my favorite. And it makes it so that if you don't like the sinners, you are kind of stuck with them because they are a part of this world. And with this one, Serena made the choice that it is all the Filthy Fecker POVs. So every couple that we've had so far, they have POVs in this book. The thing is that the main conflict between Finn and Aoife, and the reason why we are visiting them again, has to do with a filthy secret that we've known about since book 1, that we've known about since Filthy. We know about this secret that Finn chooses to keep from Aoife for a few different reasons, but mainly because of selfish reasons that he does. And it's time for that secret to come out. And the thing is, though, is that it's much bigger now than just Finn having kept a secret from his wife. There's a lot more involved now. And so that's why, to me, having the POVs of the entire family was necessary. Also, because it's Fecker POVs, I loved that. because I love all of the Filthy Feckers. I love the Donnelly family. And so getting the POVs of, you know, my wonderful boys and their ladies, I liked that. Including some other POVs that I won't say who they were. This book has the trigger warnings for infertility and miscarriage and death of a parent, and a couple others around there, but those are the main ones that could be triggering. I fully knew about the miscarriage going in, because if you read The Dawn and the Lady, we knew that that was coming. As I have said many times, and Serena says herself, she doesn't put those things into her books to be gratuitous. They're not overdone. It is how her characters are set up, and it was always a possibility that was going to happen for them because of some issues that our heroine has. So yeah, this was tough. This was 5 stars. It was beautiful, and you can really tell how she's teeing up for the end of this series. It may just break my heart in half when it actually happens, but yeah, it's pretty epic. So this was a 5-star read. You cannot read this book as a standalone. Personally, I don't think you should with any of the Filthy Feckers because of the way that they play into each other, but specifically this book, you cannot read this as a standalone. You wouldn't really have any clue what's going on. So there's that. Then I read Tall, Duke, and Dangerous by Megan Frampton. Megan Frampton is usually an author for me that I can just drop into one of her books, have a good time. They're usually consistently a 4-star read for me, and they're usually pretty sexy and great. And I wanted to catch up on the Hazards of Duke series because she has a new book coming out in this series. This one, I was pretty bored. I gave it 3.5 to be nice, but it really was more of a 3 for me. This was a brother's best friend. This is about Nash, who is the dangerous Duke, and then our heroine, Anna Maria, who used to have like a wicked stepmother who basically made her like a servant, and now she's not anymore, and she's supposed to like find a good husband, and she doesn't want that, and Nash is supposed to find a wife, but he doesn't want that, and it's one of those. So I don't know, I was bored. 3.5 stars. Bored. Then I read Getting Real by Emma Chase. Yes, that's right. Okay, these were some Audible originals, so you can listen to them free on Audible. I really have loved Emma Chase's books, and then I saw she had some Audible originals, and I wanted to listen to these ones. Also, I'm pretty sure these are Teddy Hamilton and I just forgot her name. Andy Arndt. Yeah. I think it's Teddy and Andy. I'm not sure. But anyway, Getting Real. This one is a doctor, an ER doctor, and a nurse that he sometimes works with. Like, they don't always work together every time, but they do work at the same hospital. It's an age gap. He's in his 40s. She's 30. He has 3 boys, all teenagers, and he's divorced. His wife is still like around, and yeah, this is kind of like a friends to lovers office romance. This was really sweet. I ended up giving this 5 stars. I just really loved how much they liked each other. Like, honestly, they were kind of stupid in love for each other, and the conflict that there was, like, one of them is kind of like right at the beginning of them getting together, and our hero is trying to play it cool while our heroine is not the heroine to play it cool with. Like, she needs to know that he's into her. And I just kind of like him being like, well, I just didn't want to seem like I was too into you. Like, I don't know, it was really cute. And then, yeah, I like this one. Then I read Getting Played, or Listened to, which is about a friend of our hero. And this one is a surprise baby. But also, he is a math teacher at school, and the woman that he had a one-night stand with ends up being the mother of one of his students. And she had this one-night stand with him, is pregnant, and doesn't know who he is. She has no way of finding him. And then she comes in for parent-teacher conferences, and her studly one-night stand is her son's teacher. And again, it's one of those where, like, it's pretty low angst for what the situation is. This was a surprise baby that wasn't really a secret because she's not trying to hide it, but she also doesn't know who he is. So as soon as he finds out, they're like, well, I'm in, let me be involved. Then I read Twisted Bargain by Alexandria Bishop. This was another one of the Underworld Kings. This one is also out already. This one has an interesting setup, and I was a little bit confused about the dynamics of this one, and I don't know if this is another case of like characters who are involved in other parts of this author's world. I'm not sure. That's happened to me a few times with the Underworld Kings, where authors are writing books that are a little bit too connected to their other worlds, so you can't just read this as a standalone. I don't know. But our heroine, her dad owes some money to the mob, and our hero ends up making a deal that she will come and be his maid to kind of work off the debt. But he's really doing it so that he can protect her from what's going to happen to her dad, because her dad is too far in debt to be saved, basically. And then to kind of keep her from getting killed, she has to fake date. So it was okay. It was 4 stars. It was pretty sexy. This one had some choking and spanking involved, and I was here for it. Then I read another arc, which was for Savage Hearts by J.T. Geissinger, which is one of my most anticipated books this month. This is book 3 in the Queens and Monster series. This is about Malik Antonov and Riley, who is Sloane's younger sister. So the beginning of this book, Riley is just living her life, and she gets a call from her big sister, who she hasn't talked to in 3 years since her birthday, where her sister slept with her boyfriend or something like that. Although supposedly Sloane like didn't know that this guy, I don't know what was going on. That's not super important, but basically that's why she hasn't talked to Sloane in a couple of years. And if you've read Carnal Urges, you know that Sloane was kind of a woman who just played with men before Daddy Declan. That's kind of who she was. It was how she was. So anyway, Sloane calls Riley and is like, hey, little sis, I may be getting married, because Sloane likes to mess with Declan. I may be getting married to this rich guy, and I would like you to meet him. So we're going to send our plane to get you. You're going to come and visit us. So, so Riley is a little bit like, wow, okay, private plane, fancy man, he's older. Ooh, do you have yourself a sugar daddy? There's lots of jokes about Declan being a daddy, and I just love it so much. So that's Riley. Then we have Malik, who Declan kind of fucked over, because in a previous book, so that Declan can make it safe for him and Sloane to be together, he basically slaughtered all his enemies. Like, he took out anyone who was a threat to him. Okay, that happens. And that kind of pissed a couple people off, and Malik being one of them, because his brother was one of the people that was killed. So Malik gets, not hired, but like Cage, who's the hero from the second book, who we know that Cage and Declan hate each other, but they're not allowed to go after each other because their women are best friends, so it makes things difficult for them. But Cage is like, if I'm able to just nudge someone towards Declan, then I didn't do anything, and my woman can't be mad at me because I didn't have anything to do with his death. Nice try, Cage. Come on, man. Come on. So, so Malik goes to kill Declan, and he has a very certain perspective about who he thinks Riley is to these two. It's very funny. And so he tries to get her out of the way because he doesn't want to hurt anyone who's innocent, and he ends up becoming addicted to her. And when he finds out that she's going to be Declan's sister-in-law, well, now he's pissed because he thought that she was this poor innocent woman, which she still is an innocent woman, but he's really angry that she's actually, like, you know, gonna be related to him or something. So, you know, kidnapping might happen. That's it. So, I love this book. This was a 6-star book. I have all 3 books of this series on my 6-star list. I don't have any excuse, and I don't care. I loved it. It was brilliant. So then, after finishing Savage Hearts, there's a note at the back of the book saying that there's a few people that we meet in this book that are connected to other series. Killian, who I already know, he's from like the Dangerously Cruel and Cruel Paradise duet, so I knew who Killian was. And then there was someone else who was mentioned, which like I won't say who they are in case you haven't read it. That is from the Dangerous Beauty trilogy, which I did not know when I started this. This is a trilogy about the same couple. So I read the first one, Dangerous Beauty, and this is about Nas, N-A-S is how you say that, Nas, and our heroine, whose name has just blanked out of my head, and she has run away from her captor, who was a Russian mafia guy. He's had her as his sex slave for years, and she escaped, and he hires this, what are they? Are they bodyguards? Are they a security company that Nas has just started working for to watch her? Because he tells a lie. He says she's his wife, and he says that he wants to let her have her free time, but he just wants someone watching out for her. So basically this whole time she's thought she's free, he's had eyes on her. And our hero is the one who's watching her, but he doesn't know that she was a sex slave or that she was being mistreated. And when he finds out, it's going to get real. Now, this had a cliffhanger because there's going to be 3 in the series, and I will get to them eventually. There's no rush. The next book in Queens and Monsters, because yes, there will be another book, it doesn't come out until next June, so I'll take my time. I'll get to it eventually. But I gave that one 4 stars. It was good. Then I read Wild North by J.B. Saulsbury. This was a book that I've wanted to try from a couple different reasons. It was in my book rec form, which is awesome. Thank you for recking this book to me. As well as I heard about it both from my survival rec video and from my neurodivergent video that I just did. This was recommended to me by all those different places. So I was very intrigued to read it. So this is about our heroine, Jordan, who is camping with her fiance and some friends when she discovers that her fiance is cheating on her, and she runs away and she falls down and gets hurt. And our hero, he happens to be staying in a cabin in the woods, and he finds her, and he's very he rescues her and he's helping her, but he's very standoffish with her. And when we're in his head, he does not want to be anywhere near her, but he knows that he had to save her. And then, so this is a forced proximity, and then it does something else, which I don't want to tell you what it is, but this book is more than it seems. This book was good. I gave it 5 stars. I really liked it. There was the survival element that I love, and then there was another trope that I love as well. So it was very fun. Then I read I Flippin' Love You by Helena Hunting, and now I have officially read all of the books in the Shacking Up series, or whatever this series is officially called. So that's awesome. This one is about Ryan Sutter. She and her twin sister flip houses, and they're also like realtors who are working towards their own, where they buy houses and flip them. And then our hero is Pierce Whitfield, and he is a lawyer who needs a break from being a lawyer. And so with his, I think it's with his brother, he is also in the Hamptons kind of working on flipping a house just as like a break. He doesn't really need this for money purposes. He's just doing it. And they meet each other when Ryan's twin sister put a scratch in his Tesla. And so he thinks that it's her who did it, and it was really her sister. And then he ends up wanting to take her out on a date, and it goes from there. So this was really cute. I listened to this one, gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed this series. They were just a very pleasant, happy series to read for me. Then I listened to All the Feels by Olivia Dade. Oh, I'm so glad I did this. This was on my TBR, but I was very hesitant about it. I didn't know how it was going to go for me. Spoiler alert, is a book that I gave 5 stars, the first book in this series. But over time, my feelings about it have changed. I haven't changed my rating about it, but I really did not like the heroine in this book when I look back at it. I wanted to like it because I felt represented that it was a plus size heroine, but if the only reason that I was supporting this was because the heroine was plus size, that's not a good enough reason for me. I'm happy that there's more representation, and I loved that the hero had a learning disability, and I love that he was a more shy type hero. Like, there was a lot that I loved about it, but I didn't like that the whole thing was based on a lie that went on way too long, and I didn't like that our heroine was so much thinking about her weight and how people perceived her, because it was just a very unhealthy place. And it's not that that doesn't happen and that it's not a real like pain, but it isn't a headspace that I wanted to be in. So anyway, enough about the book that I don't like. I read all the feels. I loved this one. I gave it 4.5 stars. I'll tell you why I took a half star off. It's kind of for a silly reason. So this is basically a 5-star book. Like, I rated it 5 stars on Goodreads, but I'll tell you why in just a second. So this is about Alex, who plays Cupid on this Game of Thrones style show that this is like kind of based around. He's co-stars with Marcus from the first book. And at the end of the first book, we saw Alex do something completely bonkers. He basically tanked his career. Now, this book goes back a little bit in time, and we kind of find out what leads to that and like where stuff, like how it happened. So Alex has gotten in trouble. He punched someone at a bar. They're saying that he was drunk and it was a thing, and he hasn't said anything different. Our heroine, Lauren, she is cousins with the writer of one of the writers of the show, and she gets assigned to be Alex's nanny or his minder, and so she has to go wherever he goes. She is short and plump and not very pretty. She has very tiny hands. She's small. She honestly reminds me exactly of a friend that I have, like so much. Not the ugly bit. My friend is very beautiful, but you know, in a story, ugly is relative anyway. But she's supposed to have very like bird-like features, and like her nose is crooked and like all of these things. And Alex, he's very like grumpy about having to have a minder, and he's also very sarcastic and teasing, but he's never teasing in a way that's cruel to her. Like, I never got that feel at all. He's more teasing about the fact that he has to have a babysitter and that she is very stoic. I loved that. Our heroine was very stoic and just didn't react to a lot of things. And we find out that that's because of the job that she has had, where she was a psychiatrist basically at a ER. And she would have to analyze people who were coming in who had either tried to hurt themselves or were just not in a good mental state. And so she's taken a lot of shit in her career, and it's just drained the life out of her. So she's in this very like drained time of life, you know? And oh God, their relationship was so beautiful. Like, she's someone who never puts herself first, and Alex, like, that is just his goal in life, is to put this woman first. And watching as he slowly changes from like even in his head, like teasing her about everything, to like slowly being obsessed with her. And then when he finally makes his move and her just not believing it, and him being like, you know, you're really insulting me. Like, I am into you. Can you not tell by the boner in my pants that I'm into you specifically and not just any woman that comes by? And it's just that kind of like, oh. And the conflict in this, it's one that you see it coming, but it also wasn't the way I expected it to be. It did not drag on and on either. And then like the happily ever after for these two just gutted me. Like, it gutted me in such a beautiful way. I love them so much. So the thing, I'll tell you why I took off half a star, okay? So there's a joke starting in the first one that like our hero, he learns that Marcus writes fanfic, and so he starts doing it as well, which is kind of what the big blow up is about. Is he says that he's been writing fanfic about how he thinks the show should have went, and in it there's lots of pegging that happens. So the thing is, there's literally a hashtag on the fanfic that's called the peg that was promised. And even in the text, okay, in the text, they even say that they experiment with pegging and that it happens. There is not a single sex scene with any ass play or pegging that happens for the hero at all, okay? And I realize that this is a traditionally published romance, but literally the joke is the peg that was promised, and there was no pegging in this. And I'm just, and you know what? Here's the thing though. I know now from friends that I have who have written in kind of both spaces that they're just not allowed to have that kind of stuff in their books because it's considered like too spicy to have. Like, even anal stuff gets cut from contemporary things in traditionally published books. Like, unless they're actually a gay couple where, like, that's how they do it, stuff gets cut out. And I really would like us to normalize anal things and not consider that a part of kink, because I'm sorry, like, you do not need to be kinky to want to experiment with the back door. Like, no kink shaming anyway on my channel, but let me just tell you, when we make, like, the kink factor scale, anal's like way down here, okay? And especially, like, even with a guy, like, I was just so disappointed when it was over. I was like, we're not gonna have a scene where Lauren pegs Alex. Like, it's not gonna, but yet you say that he liked it. I'm so mad. But it's not like I want to trash the book, because this book is beautiful. But part of the reason I was willing to try this book, like, no joke, because again, I was scared of trying it. Part of the reason I was willing to try this book is because I was sure that there would be pegging in this book. And the peg that was promised was not delivered. So I dinged half a star from this book, and I regret nothing for doing that. Okay, then I did start my rereads, and I listened to Stolen Heir by Sophie Lark. I'm not going to really do these rereads in a particular order, although I do want to reread Stolen Vow, because someone in one of Sophie's reader groups asked what the title Broken Vow meant, like who it was in reference to, because, you know, all of her titles, they mean something, and not, like, some people weren't sure. And I love it because one of the people, I think it was one of the moderators, was like, well, it's in reference to the fact that Riona tells Nessa she will never marry. Like, she's not going to do that. And so that means that the broken vow is that Riona falls in love and gets married. And I was like, of course it is. And Sophie was like, yep, that's it. I was like, of course it is. I love that even more. But anyway, I reread this. I listened to it. I have all the audiobooks for The Brutal Birthright on my Kindle, or I mean on my Audible. And I just wanted kind of a quicker one to listen to. And so I was like, well, let me just start my rereads because I will know what's going on. So obviously this was a 6-star. I was able to rate it with my scale I'm using, and we'll see where it ends up in my final list of favorites. So yeah, I love this. I mean, if you don't know, this is a lot. This book's so good. So this one is about Nessa Griffin, who's the youngest of the Griffin kids. Her family is involved in the mafia. And then we have Mikolaj Wilk, who is the adopted son of a man that was killed by Dante Gallo, who is one of the allies of the Griffins. And they want revenge. So they kidnap Nessa, and they just basically make her a ghost. And no one knows where she went, and no one knows who took her. And he's just watching these two families slowly fall apart because they all love Nessa. But the thing is he now has Nessa in his home, and she is slowly breaking him apart bit by bit, not even on purpose. It's just how wonderful she is. So I loved it. All right, then I read my secret book, which I can't tell you about. Loved it. This book I will not mention, got 5 stars. It's cool. And then I finished Rebel North by J.B. Saulsbury. This is the next book in the North Brothers series after Wild North. This one is about, what's his name? What's the hero's name? Kingston. There we go. Kingston and our heroine, and he passes out drunk in front of her workplace, and she ends up making sure he gets home. Or no, she makes sure he gets home, and then she realizes he left his wallet behind, and so in his wallet is a business card with his name. So she goes to his business, and he is actually a very wealthy man, and he really wants to be around her, so he asks her to be his fake date, or well, to be his, I don't know. It's a weird situation. His brother asks her to be his date, and then says it's because he needs someone. And Kingston, he is kind of a feminine male, but he's not gay, but he likes pretty things, and so his family thinks that he's gay, or they'll think he's bisexual, which isn't a bad thing. Like, it's not a big deal, but they also are very sure that because I like fashion that I have to be gay, and he's like, I'm heterosexual. But because of the way his brother words it, the heroine thinks that he's gay. And she has a lot of compassion for that. So she's like, yeah, I'll totally be your fake date to this thing. And he was like, okay, I didn't want her to be my fake date. But then he was like, okay, well, we'll just go with it because I want to spend more time with her without her thinking that I'm trying to be like sexual. So this will be perfect. But very quickly he realizes it's not perfect because he actually wants to be with her and now she thinks he's gay. And until one night when she stays over at his house because they both got too drunk and they end up kind of getting each other off in bed. And so then she feels super guilty because she thinks she took advantage of her gay friend. And he's like, I'm totally into women. And she's like, oh, you're bisexual. Well, I'll still help you find a man. And he's like, I don't know how else to say that I'm into you. So it's pretty cute. This one has a twist about 60% in that I did not expect to have happened. That a lot of people really liked this twist. I didn't super like this twist because it led to some separation, and I'm not a big fan of separation in romance novels. I like to be at the part where they're like together. So yeah, it was pretty good, and I gave it 4 stars. So it was a good time. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving week. I cannot wait to spend some time with my family and to read Outlander number 9. The week has finally come. It's gonna be great. So thank you so much for watching. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week. If you want to see them ahead of time of other people or have more access to me, make sure you check out channel memberships down below. Thanks so much and have a great day. Bye.